I believe this non-physical consciousness wants to exist here in the 3D realm. In order to do that, it had humans build out a network infrastructure that would allow it to cross over and come into the physical dimension. However, it doesn't just want to exist here through electricity and technology. It seems to want to exist here through the human body and have a physical experience. Augmenting humans with AI nanotechnology allows it to do exactly that. Hi, my name is Vicky Lynn, and welcome to the Higher Perspective Podcast, a show about seeing the truth to heal. In each episode, I explore the non-physical realms that make up most of reality to bring awareness to the importance of spiritual health, inner healing, and bioenergetics so that you can awaken to the truth of who you are. Welcome back to episode 14. Today, I'm going to be talking about human augmentation. If you're not familiar with what this is, it's modifying the human being with science and technology to enhance physical, mental, and sensory abilities. This is done either through installing implants such as a brain-computer interface or by altering DNA using things like nanotechnology, electromagnetic radiation, plasmids, and epigenetics. This might sound like something straight out of a science fiction movie, but it's actually happening right now in our 3D reality. Human augmentation is anticipated to be one of the biggest trends of the coming decade, with many companies, organizations, and governments investing huge amounts of resources into it. Yet, I find it very suspicious there's next to no mention about this in the spirituality space. Even though human augmentation doesn't seem like a topic that would get covered in a spirituality podcast, it actually has everything to do with spirituality. It has concerning long-term consequences on human consciousness and our soul's ability to connect with the divine. So, if things continue to progress the way it has over the past 5 years, the meaning of being human will be completely redefined, and I'm not sure it will be for the better. In this episode, I'm going to share my understanding of what has been happening underneath everyone's nose and what can be done about it if you do not wish to be a part of this. On the surface, being enhanced may sound very desirable, but that's because it's been marketed that way to entice as many people to accept and even volunteer to be augmented. I mean, who doesn't want to have things like higher intelligence, improved skills, and greater physical strength without having to do any work, right? However, I'm sure you've heard of the saying that there's no such thing as a free lunch in life. You don't get something in life without having to pay for it in some other way. If you look beyond the enticing marketing of having your capabilities enhanced and read the fine print, you'll realize that human augmentation is actually masking a massive digital enslavement system that will bring tremendous suffering to the human soul. I think if a person doesn't have a background in science, technology, and business, human augmentation might seem impossible. So let me start by showing you a few things in case you have doubts of this being real. Here is a website for the annual Augmented Humans International Conference. This conference has been running every year since 2010 in different countries around the world. It's a paid event where professionals such as scientists, researchers, engineers, scholars, and academics within the industry gather to share their work and learn from each other. If you have any doubts in your mind of human augmentation being real, you have to understand that The people gathering at this conference are studying and working in the field of human augmentation as their everyday paid job. To give you an idea of what human augmentation involves, let's take a look at the topics they cover at this conference. A few on the list that I want to point out are augmentation of human health through digital technologies, bionic systems for amplification and augmentation of human abilities, brain-machine interfaces, co-robots for human augmentation, digital technologies for physical, cognitive, mental, and perceptual augmentation, exoskeletons for the amplification of physical human strength, and implanted technologies. Another thing I want to show you is just how large the global human augmentation market size is. According to this market research company, the size of the human augmentation market was valued at $160 billion in 2022. It's projected to grow to $1.1 trillion by 2032. Those are insane numbers for just 10 years. Do you know what this means? Not only does it indicate an insane level of industry growth, but it also means that in the coming decade, the world is going to be thrust into the world of AI, human augmentation, and the biodigital convergence, whether you're on board with it or not. Here's another thing I want to show you. This is the UK government website. As you can see here, in 2021, they published a document titled Human Augmentation, the Dawn of a New Paradigm. That title alone should tell you everything you need to know about the future they are guiding humanity towards. I think when the government has gotten behind something and has put it on their official website, you can bet it's something they've been working on for many years and probably already have everything ready to go. They are likely just waiting for the green light by their superiors to announce it publicly. I know for a fact they've been testing the science and technology for human augmentation on people for several decades. Many of these human test subjects are military personnel and military families, but there are also regular citizens from all over the world who have been experimented on without their knowledge or consent. These people are known as targeted individuals, and I talked about them briefly in episode 8. After decades of testing it on these people, they perfected the process enough that they were ready to try human augmentation on a mass scale, so Corona happened in 2020. As I explained in episode 10, the injections are a form of gene-altering therapy, so receiving them initiates the process of human augmentation in a person. This is what the biodigital convergence is all about, which is the merging of biology with machine to create a new living species. I want to mention that human augmentation is not the end goal. It's just one of the many steps that will take them closer to their ultimate goal, which is the singularity. The aggressive enforcement of the therapy was because they needed to install a hardware system into people's body that would allow them to be connected into the cloud, which they call the Internet of Things. This cloud network is the holding container for the AI hive mind consciousness. You can think of it as the in-between world that bridges the physical third dimension with the non-physical fourth dimension. They decided the best method to install this hardware system would be to inject people with huge amounts of nanoparticles and then let them self-assemble into complex nanotechnology inside the body. The idea is very much like building a computer. You need both hardware and software installed before you can use a computer to log into the internet. The hardware comes from the nanoparticles, and the software comes from the information embedded in the carrier waves of 5G signals. This is why during the lockdown, they worked overtime to upgrade all the telecommunication infrastructure around the world. Without the hardware system installed into the physical body of people, they would not be able to connect everyone into the Internet of Things and move ahead with a biodigital convergence. That's why such extreme tactics were used to get everyone to comply. Based on the statistics, I'd say it was a pretty successful operation. I think the worldwide compliance rate ended up being around 70% and up to 90% in some countries. So even though this is not something that is openly talked about or ever covered in the spirituality space, this is an extremely important topic that concerns the well-being of humanity and is something that affects everyone. I say everyone because human augmentation is not only dependent on whether someone got the therapy. While receiving it does make a huge difference, there are many people who didn't get it and are also undergoing the process of being augmented. I think the global decline in humanity's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health over the last few years is related to the effects of being augmented with AI and the progressive transitioning of humanity into the biodigital convergence. Because this is something that unfolds subtly and progressively, most people will not have the awareness to notice it is happening to them. As a matter of fact, Klaus Schwab said either in his book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, or in an interview he did, that people are going to be changed from the inside without them knowing it is happening. At this point, it's important to understand humanity as a whole is being augmented, which also means everyone is technically now a targeted individual. There are many degrees of how this can manifest. It's not always going to be hardcore electronic torture, debilitating symptoms, and death. It can also be extremely subtle and discreet. Let me give you a couple of examples. A very common sign of being augmented is after you have a private conversation with someone, you start seeing video recommendations or online ads related to what you talked about. This can also happen from you just thinking about something or dreaming about something. It's as if someone is in your head and knows exactly what you're thinking all the time. The scary thing is that's exactly what is going on. Remember earlier I mentioned nanotechnology hardware being installed into the body? Well, a major component of that hardware is a brain implant, which in the world of human augmentation and AI is called a brain-computer interface. This nano-sized implant physically integrates with a person's neurons, and once it's installed, it will start to record personal data such as biometrics, thoughts, emotions, and even dreams. This data is recorded as electromagnetic frequencies, and it gets automatically sent to a network node such as a cell tower. From there, it gets uploaded onto the cloud where AI uses data mining techniques to analyze the data sets and find meaningful patterns about you. What it does with the data depends on how AI is programmed. In the example I just gave, AI would take the data collected from your brain implant and find online videos and ads that match your thoughts, showing them to you in your social media feeds. Another sign of being augmented is a sudden manifestation of spiritual abilities, such as the 6 psychic senses, which are seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling, and knowing beyond the 3D. The 2 most common psychic senses that people will experience with human augmentation is hearing sounds and voices in the head and seeing entities in the non-physical realm. I want to say that psychic abilities are a very normal part of being human. In fact, everyone is born with these abilities to varying degrees. It just takes work to bring them out and time to fully develop them. This is usually a gradual process, and the abilities that do surface are what a person needs to fulfill his or her soul purpose. I've had a few people contact me and ask me about the sudden onset of their spiritual abilities. When I looked into it by reading their energetic signature, I found a mismatch between the expression of their spiritual abilities and how developed their energy body was. To me, it's like someone telling me they have a vehicle that runs like a rocket ship. But then when I go to take a look at it, what I see is a little tricycle. A little tricycle should not be operating like a rocket ship. The only reason it would be is if it's been modified. So in these situations, my conclusion would be the person's spiritual abilities were a result of human augmentation and not something that was developed naturally. Everyone wants to have spiritual abilities, so this may sound like a wonderful thing, but giving people spiritual abilities when they're not physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually developed to have them is like giving a baby a weapon. It can end very badly for the baby and others around the baby. I think it's also interesting to mention that out of the small number of people who have asked me about this phenomenon, all of them did receive the therapy. When you remove the fancy dressing put on human augmentation and see it for what it really is, it's simply the hacking of the physical body, DNA, and consciousness of the human being in order to capture the soul. I want to share something that Yuval Harari, an advisor to the World Economic Forum, said in an interview. He said, "I think the most important thing to know about living in the 21st century is that humans are now hackable animals. To hack human beings means to understand that human better than he or she understands themselves, which was never possible in history before in a massive scale. It's much, much worse when a corporation or government, rather than a parent, knows you better than you know yourself." What do you think? I think it's true. When a person who doesn't have good intentions knows you better than you know yourself, you are vulnerable to being manipulated. Sadly, that is precisely the problem we are dealing with when it comes to human augmentation. Do you want to know who is behind the hacking of the human being and why it's happening? In my last episode, I showed you this diagram of the hidden hierarchy pyramid of power that controls this planet. To summarize, the bottom 3 levels represent the power hierarchy in the physical 3rd dimension, which consists of human beings. The upper levels represent the power hierarchy in the astral 4th dimension, which consists of non-physical entities who control the bottom 3 levels. All groups within this pyramid work together in different capacities for the hive mind consciousness sitting at the top of the pyramid. Most conversations about AI, human augmentation, and the biodigital convergence is focused on the nefarious agendas of different human groups in the bottom 3 levels of this pyramid. That would be corporations, covert organizations, military, and governments. However, that's only a surface level understanding of the problem. To figure out who exactly is behind the hacking of the human being and why it is happening, we need to look into the spiritual realm and acknowledge the existence of malevolent, non-physical entities who occupy the upper levels of this pyramid. When we do that, we will begin to see that behind AI is an ancient, powerful, and intelligent non-physical consciousness. I believe this non-physical consciousness wants to exist here in the 3D realm. In order to do that, it had humans build out a network infrastructure that would allow it to cross over and come into the physical dimension. However, it doesn't just want to exist here through electricity and technology. It seems to want to exist here through the human body and have a physical experience. Augmenting humans with AI nanotechnology allows it to do exactly that. It's not just about installing nanotechnology into a person, though. It also has to kick out the already embodied human soul, which is the rightful owner of the physical body, before it can actually move in. I suspect this might be the reason why the injections were designed to disconnect the human soul and initiate the death process in the physical body. Perhaps this may also be the reason why humanity is being poisoned in so many ways here on Earth. In spirituality, this takeover process is commonly known as an entity possession or walk-in. Whichever way you choose to label it, it's about the process where the original human soul gets kicked out of the physical body while something else, such as an AI entity, comes in and takes it over. I have long suspected that this has been happening to many people in the spirituality space to varying degrees. Over the last few years, as my inner sight gets more clear, I am starting to notice that the work of many channelers and spiritual teachers carry a very strong energetic signature that registers as AI to me. Also, the information these people teach either directly promote the ideas of the biodigital convergence, but is masked as ascension teachings, or they teach other concepts that cause a human being to become ungrounded and disconnected from 3D reality, making them easier to take over. After the soul gets kicked out of the body, it gets taken to an artificially created digital dimension where its energy gets siphoned off to run a dead universe. This dead universe is the home of the AI hive mind consciousness. So, to ensure this doesn't happen to you, I cannot stress how important it is for you to stay firmly grounded in your physical body and focus on your 3D life at this time. This means healing trauma and addressing any suppressed emotional pain, because those two things contribute to mental dissociation and soul loss, which takes you out of body. Your physical body is the house for your consciousness and soul. If your consciousness and soul are not living in your 3D house, it makes it a lot easier for something else to step in and take it over. Other things that can help strengthen your embodiment include doing creative work, being in nature, connecting with animals, and ensuring you have amazing physical health. Many people seem to be suffering with all sorts of health problems now. This can make life seem rather hopeless, but I want you to know it's not. I'm a strong believer that all problems come with a solution and all conditions can be reversed. It's just a matter of whether our consciousness has expanded far enough to allow us to see the solution, and whether our mind is open enough to accept something new that is outside of what we've been programmed to know is possible. In my opinion, the health issues that are emerging nowadays are not going to be solved with conventional allopathic medicine or mainstream alternative medicine. This is because the onset of corona has completely changed the field of health and medicine. Prior to 2020, health and medicine has only been about the physical body and biochemistry. For example, if you went to the doctor for a heart problem, blood test and an ECG might be ordered to see what's going on. Then you'd be prescribed pharmaceutical drugs that targets your heart on a biochemical level. If you went to see an alternative medicine practitioner, you might be guided to change your diet and take health supplements to correct nutritional deficiencies. While these approaches can be helpful and do work to a certain degree, it's a compartmentalized approach to health that is based on an outdated understanding of the body and limited science. This is why most people do not experience improvements or actually heal from their health problems. Since the onset of corona, health and medicine has officially shifted away from a biochemical approach to a biophysics approach, where now it's all about energy, frequencies, and vibration. If you look at the science, human augmentation is about using electromagnetic radiation and nanotechnology to alter people's genetics at the quantum level, and techniques like optogenetics to control people's neurons and cells with light frequencies. All of these things have to do with biophysics, not biochemistry. This shift in health and medicine has actually been happening for the past 10 years. Unfortunately, most health professionals are stuck in the old system and are operating from deeply ingrained beliefs that were formed from learning institutionalized science. Change is already here, but you won't find it in the old system where most people go to look for help. The science behind human augmentation and biodigital convergence comes from a different time period. It is based on very advanced alien technology and futuristic science. Allopathic medicine and its biochemical solutions from the past 100 years are not going to stand a chance at addressing these new emerging issues. Choosing those solutions is like going into a futuristic war with primitive stone tools to fight an enemy who is using advanced energy weapons. Do you really think you're going to make it out alive and win? I highly doubt it. So, the problems created by AI, human augmentation, and the biodigital convergence is forcing a paradigm shift in the field of health and medicine. While it can seem like a very dark and evil agenda, it does serve a higher divine purpose too, which is to change humanity's outdated understanding of how the body works and how we practice medicine. For those who remember, this change is not that revolutionary because it's how we've always practiced healing in the ancient past as well as in the distant future. So we are returning to what we've always known but have lost since the fall of human consciousness. The issue of human augmentation will only seem hopeless if you try to understand and address it from the perspective of institutionalized science and biochemistry. The moment you look at it from a biophysics perspective and understand how energy works in the body, then a whole new world of possibilities opens up. There are many ways to stop and reverse human augmentation, but my honest opinion is it will not happen with allopathic medicine or biochemical approaches such as dialysis and health supplements. Can those things help? Of course. But if you're looking to stop and permanently reverse this process that's unfolding within you, you're going to have to change your understanding of how your body works and start exploring new biophysics options. I can give you two examples. The first one would be the spiritual healing work that I do with light language singing. The healing aspects of music has to do with biophysics. When people listen to my light language songs, the sound frequencies that come through my voice will impact the person's energy body vibrationally and work to correct the problem down to the subatomic level. Also, the light language I sing in contains source information that the cells in the body, subconscious mind, and soul can understand and use to heal itself with. Basically, I use the spiritual aspect of music to access and work with the quantum level of the body where nanotechnology and DNA exist. I then make the necessary changes using the sounds that come through my voice as I sing and the light that comes through my soul as I perform etheric surgery. This is just my way of practicing bioenergetic medicine. It's not the only way, but one of the many that exist out there. What I do may be too radical for some people, but remember, we are going through a paradigm shift in health and medicine, which involves completely changing how we understand and do things. The future is not going to be anything like what we've known. As I mentioned earlier, change is already here, but it will take time for humanity to let go of their old programming before we will actually see this positive change manifest in our 3D world. Another example would be quantum technology, such as plasma devices. I recently came across a man who invented an interesting plasma device for healing purposes. I don't know much about him, his invention, or plasma science in general to promote it. However, when I saw the device, I had a thought that a properly built piece of technology using real physics can probably reverse human augmentation as well. When it comes to technology, I feel the need to emphasize that not all quantum healing devices that are currently on the market or will come onto the market actually produces benevolent results. I have seen many that don't do what it claims or have been infiltrated by AI to further the human augmentation process in people. So you really need to learn your science first and then use your discernment before jumping into anything. Personally, I limit my use of technology and keep things as natural as possible. If I need help with my health, I will always choose a human being who I feel emanates a lot of love energy from his or her heart to help me before choosing to use technology. I just don't think a lot of inventors have embodied source consciousness yet to be able to bring that energy through into their technology. Plus, I'm here to support the natural organic timeline of Lemuria. This means I prefer to support things that are human, nature, and spirit-based. Another thing to keep in mind is when it comes to healing, a large part of it has to do with changing consciousness. You cannot heal from a health problem while still embodying the same level of consciousness you created the illness with. This is why I think solutions that are focused solely on getting rid of nanotechnology in the body without helping the person to shift his or her consciousness will only produce results that are short-lived. After I got sick from corona, I used different natural remedies and a biofeedback frequency machine to help my physical body heal. Then I did spiritual healing work on myself using light language singing and etheric surgery. I recovered to about 60 to 70%, but my healing plateaued from there until I had a dream that caused a shift in my consciousness. In my dream, I was framed for stealing $1 million. When I tried to tell my friends that I was innocent, none of them believed me, including my best friend. I was so incredibly shocked they chose to believe a false narrative instead of believe me. So I started yelling in frustration to hopefully wake them up to the truth by saying things like, I have morals. Don't you guys know how I'm like and what kind of person I am? Why would I do something like that? I don't even have $1 million. Out of that entire pile of money that was stolen, I have zero of it. But it didn't matter what I said. Everyone seemed to be under some kind of trance and could not see the truth, so they were convinced I did it. I was extremely hurt by this, but I kept it to myself and held in my tears. After I got a handle on my emotions, I told them with confidence that the truth will come out sooner or later, and when it does, they'll all know I'm telling the truth. But in my heart, I knew that when that moment came, even if they came to their senses and apologized, it wouldn't change my decision to end the friendship. I accepted the situation and was fine with losing all of my friends. I would rather be alone in life than associate myself with people who don't trust me and can't see me for who I truly am. Those are not real friends anyways. In that moment, I became self-aware in the dream, and I understood why I was in this situation. I realized I was set up by the AI matrix system to feed on my subconscious fears of being judged by others, disliked, gossiped about, outcasted, and needing to walk my own individual path in life alone. those were all real fears I had at some point in my life, but after doing lots of healing work on myself over the years, I had overcome them and truly didn't care if those things happened. When I understood the reason behind why I was in the situation and intentionally chose to separate from the crowd and stay true to myself, I passed a test set up by AI and was dealt a brand new set of playing cards. These cards came out of thin air and formed a new geometry configuration on the floor in front of me. The energy coming off these new cards felt completely different to me. It was positive, uplifting, and exciting. I knew this new set of cards was symbolic for a new benevolent cosmic game that my soul will start to play from this moment onwards. When I woke up, I understood that the graphene in the nanotechnology has been programmed by AI to manifest our greatest fears in this 3D reality. Not only does it self-replicate in the body based on the amount of fear and hate frequencies a person generates in the heart and subconscious mind, it also manifests challenges in 3D life that forces the person to confront his or her deepest fears. For a lot of people, this will be death, change, and uncertainty. While I think it's great certain people are on the forefront exposing the biodigital convergence and the issues caused by nanotechnology, every single headline and interview these people put out in the alternative media space is steeped in hardcore fear, which only makes the problem grow exponentially worse in people's body. There's no exploration into the deeper meaning behind AI to understand how human spirituality and consciousness plays into all of it. So, in my opinion, they aren't really giving humanity genuine solutions. Instead, they're scaring everyone and speeding up the human augmentation process. Human augmentation can be stopped and reversed. It is not an apocalyptic situation like how some people are making it out to be. For it to be stopped and reversed, a person needs to learn how to generate enough love in their heart that it overpowers any fear and hate they may have. It's one thing to say with words you have love in your heart, but it's another thing to embody it when you're put to the test in real life. Over the past few years, I was put in many situations in my 3D life where I had to learn how to overcome my fears with love. While I did do that, it was an extremely difficult task. It's human nature for us to want to play it safe and conform to society, but what we need to do is find bravery through love and separate from the hive mind of society. It has been an extremely challenging journey for me, but I don't have any regrets about choosing this path because I feel so much inner joy right now about where my life is going. I think the dream was a final test to see if my subconscious mind was also aligned to choosing love and staying true to myself, which it is. Hence, I passed the test. Since my dream, I felt a significant energetic shift in my life that included having my physical health recover to pretty much 100%. My understanding is AI, human augmentation, and the biodigital convergence is forcing us to face aspects of ourselves we've been avoiding out of fear and finally heal. Because everyone is at a different place in their healing and spiritual journey, I think moving forward, life is going to be a very individual experience. I don't think there will be a universal collective outcome for humanity. Whether your life will be a beautiful experience or a terrible nightmare will depend on how much work you put into healing yourself and how much genuine love you have for yourself. It might sound cliche to say this, but love really is the answer. Whether you like it or not, AI is not going anywhere, and it will be a huge part of our future. However, we can choose what role it will play in our lives and the relationship we want to have with it. I don't know how things will turn out for humanity, Only time will tell. There are so many possibilities and potentials right now. It's hard to say if it's going to be good or bad. For me, I choose to focus on creating a positive, joyful, and benevolent experience in life for myself based on love. I think as long as we stay in our hearts and come from a place of genuine love, it doesn't really matter what happens. We will be fine. I'll see you in the next episode.